Canada to do their own upgrades, to build parts of it, to do final assembly and tests. We, as Saab, we are prepared to do that technology transfer to Canada and support that build-up.
The company that makes the Gripen has told CTV News that 10,000 manufacturing and research jobs could land in Canada if Ottawa adds the Swedish fighter jet to its military fleet.
Swedish defense firm Saab wants Canada to buy and build its fighter jets. The firm is pitching a partnership with Bombardier and promising to create up to 10,000 jobs along with it.
Imagine standing on a windswept runway in the Canadian high Arctic, where the air is so cold it feels like breathing broken glass. For decades, the guardians of this frozen frontier have relied on aging machinery, but the clock is ticking. Canada is currently caught in the middle of what might be the most expensive, politically charged, and strategically defining window shopping trip in modern history. At its heart is a choice that isn't just about wings and engines. It's a choice about who Canada wants to be on the world stage. For years, the F-35 Lightning II was the only name in the conversation, the shiny, stealthy future promised by Washington. But now, a Swedish underdog named Saab is knocking on the door with a toolkit, a blueprint, and a promise. Don't just buy our jets, build them. This saga didn't start yesterday. It began back in 2010, when the government tried to skip the line, announcing a direct purchase of 65 F-35s without a competitive bid. That move was like trying to buy a house without an inspection. It triggered an immediate firestorm. Critics didn't just worry about the price tag. They worried about the transparency. By 2014, the plan was toxic, effectively shelved while officials scrambled to prove they weren't just following orders from the Pentagon. Fast forward to 2023. And it seemed the drama was finally over. Ottawa officially picked the F-35R, ordering 88 jets with a delivery date set for 2026. The ink was dry, the pilots were ready, and the military establishment breathed a sigh of relief. Then, the 2025 Auditor General's report hit like a structural failure. That reasonable $19 billion price tag, it had mutated. New estimates suggested the bill could soar to $33 billion once you factored in the boring but essential stuff. Hangars, specialized weapons, and the astronomical cost of keeping a stealth jet in the air for 30 years. We are talking about a 75% jump in costs. In a country where every defense dollar is scrutinized against healthcare and housing, that number was a political landmine. At the same time, the geopolitical weather turned ugly, with the second Trump administration floating 25% tariffs on Canadian goods and making offhand jokes about Canada becoming the 51st state. The dependable partner routine started to feel a lot like vulnerable dependency. It was in this atmosphere of sticker shock and political tension that Saab made its move. They weren't just selling an airplane. They were selling a national aerospace renaissance. The Swedish firm pitched a massive partnership with BAM, promising to create over 12,000 jobs. Their pitch was radical, total technology transfer. They told Canada, "We will give you the keys, the source code, and the factory. You can build the Gripen E here, upgrade it here, and own it entirely." For a nation feeling the squeeze of American economic leverage, the idea of sovereign control was intoxicating. It shifted the debate from which jet flies faster to which jet makes Canada more independent. The complexity of these massive defense deals balancing national security, billions of dollars, and the high-stakes ego of global superpowers as a puzzle that rarely has a perfect answer. Navigating these shifts in global power and the technical nuances of modern warfare requires a deep dive into the stories the mainstream news often misses. If you find value in peeling back the layers of these geopolitical chess matches and want to stay ahead of the next major shift in international relations, consider subscribing to the channel. We break down the complicated machinery of power so you can see the world more clearly. With the door to the F-35 contract suddenly cracked open again, the technical debate has become a battle of philosophies. On one side, you have the stealth, or death camp. In the 2021 evaluations, the F-35 absolutely crushed the competition on paper, scoring a 57.1 out of 60. The Gripen E, it trailed behind with a 19.8. Military purists argue that in a conflict against a near-peer adversary like Russia or China, if you aren't stealthy, you're a target. They talk about overmatch, the ability to see the enemy and kill them before they even know you're in the sky. To them, the Gripen is a legacy design, a 4.5 generation fighter trying to compete in a 5th generation world. But the sovereignty camp asks a different question. Who are we actually fighting? Canada's primary job is Arctic sovereignty and NORAD patrols. The Gripen was literally designed for the Swedish version of the Canadian North. It can land on a snowy highway, be refueled by a small team of conscripts in 10 minutes, and get back into the fight. Most importantly, its operating cost is roughly $8,000 per hour. Compare that to the F-35, which can eat through $35,000 to $47,000 every single hour. It's in the air. For a country with a vast geography and a limited budget, the Gripen is the rugged pickup truck that is SAEC, while the F-35 is the high-maintenance supercar that requires a specialized team from the manufacturer every time a warning light comes on. This brings us to the kill switch controversy, the ultimate ghost in the machine. Modern fighters like the F-35 aren't just planes. They are flying data centers. Their effectiveness depends on millions of lines of code and a constant stream of updates from the United States. Critics argue that this creates a conditional sovereignty. If Canada and the US ever had a true falling out, Washington could, in theory, stop the software updates. Without those updates, the F-35's sensors and weapon systems eventually become dumb. You own the jet, but you don't own the brain. Saab's offer of the source code is a direct challenge to this model. They are offering a black box that Canada can actually open. However, even the dream of Swedish-Canadian autonomy has an American shadow. The Gripen might be designed in Sweden, but its heart the GE F414 engine is American. This is a great paradox of modern defense. True independence is an illusion. Even if Canada built every bolt of the Gripen in a factory in Quebec, the US could still theoretically veto the export of the engines or the specialized chips required for the radar. Whether Canada goes with the stealth of the F-35 or the industrial promise of the Gripen, they are still tethered to the American defense industrial complex. It's not a question of whether you are dependent, but how you manage that dependency. The current compromise being whispered in the halls of Ottawa is a hybrid fleet. The idea is to take the first 16 F-35s to keep the Americans and NATO happy, ensuring Canada has a tip of the spear's stealth capability. The remaining 72 jets would be Gripens, built domestically to fulfill the promise of jobs and reliability. On paper, it's a brilliant political middle ground. In reality, it's a logistical nightmare. It would mean 2 sets of spare parts, 2 different training pipelines for pilots, and 2 different maintenance cultures. It's an expensive way to say I can't decide, but in the world of high-stakes procurement, it might be the only way to move forward. As early 2026 approaches, the rhetoric from Defense Minister Bill Blair and Prime Minister Mark Carney has become carefully neutral. They are no longer dismissing the alternatives. They are listening to the economists who worry about the $33 billion bill, and they are listening to the generals who worry about being outgunned in a future war. This isn't just about picking a plane. It's a referendum on Canadian sovereignty in the 21st century. Do you buy the best tool available, even if someone else holds the remote control? Or do you build a slightly less capable tool that you can truly call your own? The decision made in the coming months will echo for the next 50 years. It will determine the shape of the Canadian aerospace industry and the reach of the Royal Canadian Air Force from the Atlantic to the Arctic. Every snort of derision from the Pentagon and every music cue in a Saab promotional video is a beat in a drum roll leading to a final, definitive choice. Canada is standing at the edge of the runway, engines idling, waiting for the signal to take off. The only question is, which flag will be sewn into the software that keeps them in the air?